This week on Hometown Ghost Stories. Set deep in the shadow of the Sierra Nevada mountain range is a city with a peculiar history. One of gambling, violence, saloon brawls, and a unique set of laws that have attracted people from all over. An unusual history that has led locals to believe, quite credibly, that they may share their city of Reno, Nevada, with the spirits of the dead. This is Hometown Ghost Stories, Reno, Nevada.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
September 1946, Reno, Nevada. The phone was ringing, but for whatever reason, the dispatcher wasn't at his desk. Officer Mullaney was sick of listening to it ring, so he walked over to answer it. After hanging up, he called over to his partner, Officer Brown, and told him to head to the cruiser. Officer Brown asked about the nature of the call, and Mullaney informed him that it was a complaint about suspicious activity at the Virginia Street Bridge. Suspicious activity could be almost anything. The department got calls like that to this bridge all the time, and the activity ranged from reports as harmless as an armadillo crossing the bridge to reports of the Bugsy Siegel gang dumping bodies in the river. The latter was the reason Officer Mullaney was bringing backup. The two cops got into the cruiser and headed out towards the Virginia Street Bridge. It was a clear night. The moon hung low in the sky, surrounded by a canvas of winking stars. It wasn't a far drive to the bridge, and when the officers arrived, there seemed to be nobody around. They parked the cruiser and got out to take a look around to see what might have been construed as suspicious activity. They decided to split up and each take an end of the bridge. Mullaney took the far end, scanning back and forth with his flashlight as he walked across. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He figured they were probably experiencing one of the more harmless calls. But as he approached the other side of the bridge, he thought he heard something off the side by the riverbank. He approached the edge of the bridge and shined his flashlight over the rail, but was unable to see anything. He called out to see if there would be any response, and he was surprised when he heard a groaning sound coming from the riverbank below. Mullaney hurried to the end of the bridge and around the side down the embankment. There was a low area at the edge of the river where you could walk under the bridge, and Mullaney pointed his flashlight down there to see if he could see someone. The riverbank appeared to be vacant, but that's when he heard the voice again, and it was coming from under the bridge. For a brief moment, Mullaney wondered if it was a troll, but immediately shook off the ridiculous thought. Again, the voice croaked something out that sounded more like a phrase this time. He thought it said, "My neck. Help, my neck." Officer Mullaney crept under the bridge towards a pile of rocks towards the middle, wondering if somebody was behind it who needed help. That's when he saw a shadow rise up from behind the rock pile. He shined the light at it, and it appeared to be in the shape of a human, but its head was hanging to the side. The voice, more clearly now, spoke again. "Help, my neck. I think it's broken." Officer Mullaney hurried over to assist the person, but as he rounded the rock pile, he found nobody there, and the shadow, along with the strange voice, was gone. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Reno, Nevada. Reno, Nevada, founded in 1868, has a fascinating and tumultuous history shaped by the mining booms of the late 19th century, the rise of gambling, and its unique role in America's divorce industry. Known as the biggest little city in the world, Reno evolved from a rough and tumble frontier town to a bustling hub of vice, tourism, and industry. The area was originally inhabited by the Washoe people, who lived along the Truckee River. The Washoe were a peaceful, semi-nomadic people whose way of life was disrupted by European settlers in the mid-1800s who arrived during the gold and silver rush. Reno officially became a city in 1868 when the Central Pacific Railroad established a station there, cementing its importance as a transportation hub. Throughout the 19th century, the city grew a reputation for saloons, gunfights, brothels, and violent disputes over mining claims. The 20th century wasn't much better either. During Prohibition, Reno became a hotspot for bootlegging and organized crime, with rival gangs vying for control of liquor routes. Also in the early 20th century, Reno became famous for its 6-week residency requirement to obtain a divorce. This brought thousands of people to the city, including celebrities, and created a unique subculture. Some disputes over settlements or relationships reportedly turned violent. Gambling was legalized in Nevada in 1931, and Reno quickly capitalized, becoming one of the first gambling capitals in the U.S. Today, Reno is known for its blend of Old West charm and modern attractions, though its history of violence and vice lingers in local lore. Haunted locations, old mining sites, and legends of old Wild West shootouts all help shape the city of Reno in its enduring mystique. One of Reno's most infamously haunted locations is the Levy Mansion. As the Wild West was booming due to the gold rush, facilitated by the Central Pacific Railroad, passing through Reno presented a massive economic opportunity for those looking to capitalize on its growing population, and many people, including William Levy, took advantage. The German immigrant came to America in the late 19th century and wound up in Reno in 1887. Where he and his business partner Jacob Morris invested in several mining companies and opened a dry goods operation. On a business trip, William met Tilly Goldsmith, who he married in 1895. He adopted her Jewish faith, and the couple would go on to have 2 daughters together, Fritzie and Mildred. The Levy family often traveled back and forth to San Francisco, but once William was finished purchasing supplies for his store in California, he relocated his wife, daughters, and mother-in-law to Reno in 1906. He had a massive 3-story mansion built in the classical revival style for his family to live in on South Sierra Street. The family lived in the house for 6 years before Tilly's mother lost her battle with cancer and died in the house. From that point on, things would only grow stranger. One night, in 1920, William went to sleep and never woke up. His death left the family shocked and devastated, which lasted until 1938, when Tilly suddenly died at the age of 68. After the deaths of the Levys, the property was left to their daughters Fritzie and Mildred, and it remained in their joint ownership until they passed away in 1978 and 1988. Ending the Levy family legacy in Reno. For some odd reason, however, nobody knows where any of them are buried. Legend has it, the Levy Mansion is cursed and was the result of the deaths of the original owners. It's theorized that since it was built on stolen Washoe land, it's cursed by the Washoe spirits and is now said to be haunted by the ghosts of the Levys as well as some other spirits. After the death of Mildred in 1978, Fritzie rented the house out to a spa company called Metro Day Spa, which operated during the 1980s. The owners of the spa often complained feeling an eerie, unseen presence throughout the house. They also noted that there were various cold spots and random breezes on the 2nd and 3rd floors, as well as a general feeling of unease that can be felt throughout the house. Some people even complained of headaches when they were in the attic or basement. It got so bad that they actually called a team of paranormal investigators, and what they found was particularly disturbing. During their investigation, they caught strong EVP readings with violent messages. It was unclear if the messages were coming from the ghosts of the Levys or something else, something much older and darker. The team also discovered several other ghosts, including a young boy who died of an unknown disease, a thin figure wearing a dark suit, and the spirits of 2 10-year-old girls. The origins of these spirits are unknown. Today, the house is owned by the Nevada Museum of Art and is still believed to be haunted. Another haunted location, or rather locations, in Reno are the divorce ranches. Tool Springs Ranch and Twin Lakes Lodge, both abandoned now, used to serve as divorce ranches back in the 1940s. In the late 19th and early 20th century, divorce was still largely taboo in much of the United States. Couples that wanted to split had few options. In states like New York, for example, the only way to get a divorce was to prove adultery. Reasons like spousal abuse or simple mutual consensus didn't even figure into the equation. But Reno was a boomtown, and in boomtowns, legal proceedings had to be brief due to their transient nature, so the great entrepreneurs that inhabited the city of Reno obviously decided to capitalize on this. For decades, legally married wealthy women and celebrities from other states would check in and 6 weeks later check out, one spouse lighter. Divorce tourism boomed, so much so that the Virginia Street Bridge, a block from the courthouse steps, became known as the Wedding Ring Bridge, where the newly divorced would dramatically toss their wedding rings into the Truckee River. This all led to Reno gaining the reputation as the divorce capital of the world. So while this is all very interesting, you might be wondering why these now abandoned divorce ranches are haunted. Well, the theory goes that many guests came to the ranches during tumultuous times in their lives, carrying heavy emotional burdens. This intense energy is said to linger in these spaces, manifesting as paranormal activity. Rumors of self-unaliving and untimely deaths on the ranches fuel the ghost stories. Guests suffering from heartbreak or despair may have ended their lives there, leaving behind residual negative energy. While they were operational, ranch staff and visitors reported hearing disembodied voices and laughter in empty rooms, as well as phantom footsteps, sometimes heavy and deliberate in staircases and hallways. One common apparition that has been reported by both visitors and paranormal investigators is the ghost of a distraught woman, often seen crying near the ranch stables and gardens. Other figures of translucent women have been spotted in the windows of the empty buildings, sometimes in period clothing. Poltergeist activity has also been reported at the ranches. Objects moving on their own, including furniture shifting and doors slamming shut with no apparent cause, lights flicker, and radios and other electronics have been known to turn off and on mysteriously. The combination of these immense emotions, the isolation of the desert, and the possible deaths that occurred on these properties have lent credibility to the rumors of their subsequent hauntings. The University of Nevada is rumored to be the most haunted college in America. Founded in 1874, the campus is unique with both new buildings as well as old ones, some of which date all the way back to the college's founding. The McKay School of Mines is considered among the campus's most haunted buildings. There are simply too many ghost stories linked to it to count, including one about geology professor E.R. Larson. He died in his office in 1979, and clocks have been known to randomly stop at his time of death ever since. One of the most famous legends about the building involves a portrait of Catherine McKay, one of the building's namesakes. The portrait hangs inside the conference room on the second floor of the building. It stays in that room because anytime it's moved to another room, it just topples off the wall over and over, no matter what room it's in. In the 1990s, staff attempted to move it to the basement, but it was later found floating in midair. Lincoln Hall is another building with a creepy legend associated with it. It's believed that a student named James Champagne accidentally shot himself while cleaning his rifle in the building in 1906. His ghost is believed to haunt the building, especially the basement, to this very day. Both Nye Hall and Canada Hall are built on old Native American burial ground, which prior to the construction of the college was desecrated when it was excavated and turned into a Catholic burial ground. Both those halls that now stand on that ground experience intense paranormal activity. Several other buildings on the campus are said to be haunted, experiencing the feeling of being watched, disembodied footsteps, and objects moving without any apparent cause. The most bizarre Reno haunting involves the Reno Police Department. In 2010, an elderly man died, leaving his also elderly wife, who was in a moderate state of mental decline, widowed. Occasionally, the Reno Police Department would get a 911 call, and it would be that woman calling to ask for assistance with mundane tasks around the house, like she needed help folding laundry or doing the dishes. The dispatcher, who caught on that this woman may be suffering from dementia, would just politely explain that this was an emergency line and wasn't to be used for such phone calls. But despite the explanations, the calls would persist. And eventually, the calls would take a turn. Rather than calling for help with mundane tasks, she would call believing she was talking with her deceased husband. The dispatcher would pick up, and the woman would ask for John. By this time, the dispatcher had gotten so many calls from this woman that they would recognize her address coming through, and they knew what to expect. They would answer the phone, they'd be respectful, and they would tell her like they always did, "This is 911, you can't call here, you need to talk to your family." They never actually sent out responding units to her house because it just seemed like she was confused, not in any danger. But one day, she called, and she sounded frantic and scared. "John, please come home. Help me. I need help, John. Come home." This time, they would send the first responders out to the woman's house. When the responding unit arrived at her house, just minutes after she had placed the 911 call, they go to the door and knock, but there's no answer. They knock again, and they call out police, but still, there's just complete silence. So they try the door handle, and they find that it's unlocked. When they enter the house, the first thing they notice is that it's absolutely frigid and it was clear that the heat was not on. They search the entire first floor, but they find nobody. They call out her name, but there's no response. After clearing the first floor, they head up to the second floor, hoping not to find her injured. They search every room one by one, each time not finding anybody, until they reach the final room, which was her bedroom. They open the door, and they find her laying in bed, clearly deceased. And they could tell she had been deceased for quite some time given the state of rigor mortis her body was in. The only problem was that she clearly just called 911 only a few minutes prior. They figured maybe it was a different woman on the bed, but it was confirmed to be the woman who owned the house and who made the call. Since they deemed it impossible that a dead person could have made the 911 call, they needed some kind of rationalization. The official report, when it came out, stated that her body had not been in rigor mortis. It was just so cold in the house that it caused the body to appear to be in rigor mortis. That explanation worked for the official report and for the higher-ups, but it didn't do much for the unsettled officers and dispatcher. They had a feeling something else was going on. Then, a few days later, the dispatcher gets a 911 call and notices that it's from that same address. And when she answers, it's the same woman, frantically asking for her husband, John. The dispatcher tries to get more information, but the call disconnects. This continues to happen over and over again for a year. Then the house was broken into and burned to the ground. But that didn't stop the calls. They just kept coming in. It got to the point where the Reno Police Department reached out to the phone company and asked them to look into it. The phone company sent somebody out to investigate, and when he reported back, he informed them that that line had been disconnected pretty much immediately after the woman died, so it was impossible to be receiving calls from that address. The Reno Police Department never solved the mystery of those bizarre phone calls. All in all, the big little city of Reno has a very unique reputation. Strange, violent, and wild history, which is the perfect recipe for a city infested with the ghosts of the dead.
What's going on, folks? Welcome to Hometown Ghost Stories, episode number 147, covering the ghosts of the biggest little city, Reno, Nevada. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
I got really excited for a minute because I thought we were doing hauntings at a school of mimes, which sounded really interesting, but alas, it was just a school of mines. Very, very confusing, Dave.
I think
Mining?
it's a mining town. So I
Yeah,
don't know why people would, maybe, I don't know if it's still a mining town, why they'd still need a school of mines, but maybe it's one of those buildings that's just named for the nostalgia of the town.
It's a good thing it's not a school of landmines.
That would be terrifying.
It'll be a hard learning experience for everyone. Yes, we're also joined by our biggest little host, Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Yes, yeah. So covering Reno, Nevada. Some say Nevada. We say Nevada. Rob, do you say Nevada? You say things weird.
I say Nevada.
All
Shit,
right.
so maybe we're all saying it weird.
What's up to everyone who's hanging out in live chat? I guess this is our Christmas episode.
Merry
A week
Christmas.
from today would be Christmas Eve, so I don't really know what our game plan is for next week, but we're going to bring you something next week. But as for
No, we're
live
not.
episodes,
We're taking a break next week, Jesse. We've talked about this. So for the past 3 years, we have delivered content on a weekly basis without missing a week. We've decided that we need to at least give ourselves a little bit of a break. We're going to take 1 week off and enjoy ourselves. Not that we don't enjoy doing the show.
right? Well, the following week would be New Year's Eve. So what's our plan? What's our plan for that? We do Monday on that week.
We're gonna live Monday night.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Little Eve stream.
We're going to go live. We're going to talk about haunted eBay items that day, you know, that fun episode. But now we've also got exclusive content up for our $10 and $20 tiers on Patreon, where we are talking about a haunted ghost ship. It is a terrifying episode, lots of fun. So if you can go to Patreon, it is still time to get merch for Christmas. Might be a little late. You can go do that at hometownghoststories.com. And that's all the shilling I have to do for right now.
It's exciting stuff. Also, the Hometown Ghost Stories Secret Santa is in full effect. I just shipped out my gift for the Secret Santa today. So for that lucky individual.
Did you ship out that book that you got mailed that you were really disappointed with? That was basically stapled together paper.
I should mail it back to that. No, you know what? That should have been my Secret Santa gift. You just get all the books I don't like.
You should have wrapped your presents in that book. Like just
ripped out the pages and used that as wrapping paper.
Yeah, exactly.
That would serve it much more use than it's being served right now.
Yes.
I actually left that on the floor of my office for a solid week before I picked it up.
Just glared at it.
I was so disgusted by it. I was like, look at you on the floor where you belong.
This is where you belong.
Collected dust.
Dirty book.
Yeah. Anyways, what's up to everyone hanging out in live chat before the stream started? Tess came in with 20 Hometown Ghost Stories memberships on YouTube. Kitten Clown Dozer gifted 10. Brenda C came in with a massive 50 bomb. My goodness, you guys are phenomenal. So thank you so much. And then happy resub day to Aussie Tiger. We appreciate you guys for joining. If you got gifted a sub, make sure you say thank you to whoever may have gifted it. It looks like it's fixed in the chat. Last week it wasn't working. But I think the gifts went out, but it wasn't giving notifications on it. But it's looking like they're scrolling these days, which is great great news. So
I was wondering if that, because we get so many gifted memberships all the time, which is awesome, if just everyone has one. So maybe that was the problem?
No shot. Because even if they're not in live chat, the gifts go to just subscribers, I think, next.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
we have enough of those. And it's exciting stuff. So Christmas is on the way. Hope you guys are ready for that if you celebrate, and be safe out there these holidays. Don't go driving around. Don't go stealing stuff from haunted properties. Don't go desecrating any graves this Christmas. It's just not the Christmas spirit, you know.
Try to refrain from that traditional Christmas activities.
You guys don't do Christmas grave robbing?
No,
you pick one lucky family and go steal their buried family members? That's just my
Rob, I don't know. I mean, I got a family with kids, you know, so it's like I got to do these kinds of. I don't know what guys like you do on Christmas. I guess just.
I learned this growing up. You steal the body, then you wait for snow and you turn them into a snowman. That's the structural integrity. It's the skeletal system. That's what I can't imagine that you guys didn't do this at least once as children.
This is what people who don't have families do.
It's a family bonding experience.
They dig up old family members.
It's the strongest snowman. That's why it's so strong. It all makes sense now.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah. So we're talking about Reno, Nevada today. Not our first time covering Nevada. I don't even know if it's our first time covering Reno. Have we done?
It is our first time covering Reno, but we covered Virginia City. So there's the Virginia Street
yes.
Bridge. There's the Washoe territory that's also, they're very close to each other.
Yeah, we covered the Washoe Club, which is Virginia City, which is very close.
The Clown Hotel that I'm never going to is in Nevada, isn't it?
Yep, that's in Tonopah, Nevada. Yeah, we've done Nevada a few times.
Yeah.
So
We've covered every state. We have done every state now. We
That's
actually
pretty
can
cool.
end the show.
that's what we're doing.
Surprise! Bye, everyone.
No, never. We're in for another big year of Hometown Ghost Stories, and we're excited for it. But for now, we're covering the hauntings of the city of Reno, Nevada.
Very
And-
Christmassy.
Sure, why not? They have Christmas over there. It snows. So it is northern Nevada, so they do get all sorts of crazy seasons. And I guess even when you are in the southern Nevada desert, it's hot during the day and cold during the night during some seasons, which is pretty weird.
The only place I ever got pneumonia was in Arizona because it would be 80 or 90 degrees during the day when I was at job training for the Army. So you wear your summer uniforms, and then by nightfall, it was 20 degrees out, and everyone's just freezing trying to get back to the barracks. And that's the only time I ever got pneumonia.
The temperature shifts are crazy out there. Like that's why they say it's so dangerous to hike in the Grand Canyon. Not just the fact that it's the Grand Canyon, but because of the people don't prepare for the temperature change, and they just think, "Oh, I'm in the desert. It's 104 degrees. I'll be fine with my shorts and t-shirt." And then night comes, and they're not. So gotta be careful when you do that stuff. Make sure you do your research before you go on any kind of hiking journey anywhere, especially a place as dangerous as the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's dark. You can just step off, or even worse, walk into a cactus.
Even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah, levels of severity is, falling off a cliff is only superseded by a little ouchie.
Yeah.
I will say this. Do you remember long ago we took a helicopter tour from Las Vegas to the Grand Canyon? You remember
Into
this,
the
Dave? I
Grand
think
Canyon,
you were
yeah.
there, right? We went into the Grand Canyon, had a little picnic in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
it was
cool.
so hot in that helicopter, a little glass bubble helicopter, and the sun was beating through, and it was like 105 outside. It was Vegas in July, and inside it must have been 5 times that, maybe 500 degrees inside, I'd say roughly.
Yep. Remember,
Anyways,
Mom made us bring sweatshirts.
She did. Yeah. Which we just told everyone's a great idea, by the way. Bad timing on this. No, I think you're confusing it. She made us bring sweatshirts to Mexico. Did she make us bring sweatshirts into the Grand Canyon?
I don't know if it's maybe she did make us bring sweatshirts to Tijuana.
Tijuana, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I do remember that because it did not get under 102 degrees when we were in Tijuana. We're just lugging around our sweatshirts too. Yeah,
Something to wipe the sweat away with.
Yeah.
But since you've already gotten us banned on YouTube anyways, I'll never forget, like, I've never come closer to contemplating jumping out of a helicopter than on that tour. Not because it wasn't awesome, because it was super cool, but because it was so hot in that helicopter. And there was like a nice little river below us. I was like, that looks great.
Yeah.
I'd like to be in that water instead of in this helicopter right now. Thought about it, didn't do it.
I mean, we've all jumped out of, flying objects in our lives.
The three of us have. That's true.
The 3 of us have all gone skydiving together.
Not out of a helicopter, though.
True.
No, not yet.
That would freak me out. Wouldn't want to get like sucked up.
No, you go bungee jumping out of a helicopter.
Oh, right.
I don't think getting sucked up is a thing that happens.
Speaking of bungee jumping, the first location that we covered here was the Virginia Street Bridge, which was constructed in 1905. And this was, I actually didn't go into depth about this bridge. I just referenced I referenced one of the hauntings in the opening ghost story. And it became famously associated with the tradition of individuals tossing their wedding rings off the bridge and into the Truckee River after obtaining the divorces, which would symbolize the end of their marriage. But the reason people believe that it's haunted is there's a ghost story that's linked to it, and it involves a guy named Louis Ortiz. And this goes back to 1891. Ortiz was lynched on the bridge by a mob for allegedly killing Reno Night Constable Richard Nash. Now, I assume that he was lynched on the bridge that was there at the time, since this was several years before the bridge was constructed. So I assume there was just another bridge there before, but the structure that exists now was built in 1905. So he was lynched there for killing the constable. Now, lynched doesn't mean hanged by, found guilty and then hanged as a punishment. Lynched means people were like, oh, we don't like what you did, so they hunt you down and they do it vigilante style. And that's not recommended because sometimes you could get the wrong guy. And in this case, it's claimed that Nash's death never actually occurred, casting doubt on justification for Ortiz's execution.
Oh, yeah, there might be some holes in that story.
Well,
wait. So just to clarify, they said that this guy killed Nash, who was the night constable.
Yep.
They lynch him for it, and then they're like, "Oh, maybe Nash is actually still alive."
Yeah.
I wonder if Nash just showed up, like, didn't even know what was going on, just walking across the bridge, eating some popcorn or something like that. He just looks up. What did that guy do? Like, oh, he killed you.
I like to think he just joined the mob.
Killed me? Get him. Yeah, he just joined the mob. But yeah, that's not good. So they apparently just lynched this guy for no reason. And historically, several lynchings were of people who did not actually commit the crime. I would venture to say probably most.
A lot, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe like a lot of these are just angry mobs that are just looking for someone to pin a crime on, and not good.
Exactly. So his death, Nash never really died. I mean, I'm sure he's died by now, but at the time he wasn't dead. And according to local lore, Ortiz's restless spirit is said to haunt the bridge, with sightings of his apparition reported, especially during the nighttime. So people have seen
screaming, "What the fuck?
Fuck!
Fuck!
He's not even dead." I will say this, like, so you were saying that this bridge, people were notorious for just throwing their wedding rings off. Was there some entrepreneur just in the water, just on I'd like to picture him on like an inflatable duck swimmy raft, and he's just over there, just grabbing him up. Like, that's his gold rush right there.
So what I do know is so no, that guy didn't exist, but the true entrepreneur did exist, and he was a guy who opened up a cheap ring shop right next to the bridge, and he would just sell cheap rings, like little pieces,
so
little trinket rings.
Symbolic, don't you want to sell that? Throw this.
Yeah, no one's throwing a 14-karat diamond off the bridge.
You just
got
the
set
fish
up nets too, so that you could get those ones that were thrown and just resell them.
Otherwise, the fish and the turtles are just on the ocean floor, just moving around like Rick Ross with all his jewelry on. They're feeling good. Right. Probably dying from it. Probably bad.
So the apparitions the people have seen there are sightings of a shadowy figure believed to be Ortiz. And the shadow figure sometimes shows up with a crooked neck, which is especially creepy, given the way Ortiz was killed. So that's scary. Another popular legend involves a ghostly bride who is said to haunt the bridge. And the story varies, but in most versions, she was abandoned at the altar and threw herself into the river in despair. Her spirit is said to appear on foggy nights, still wearing her wedding gown. So there's your ghost in a white dress.
There we go.
So this is the classic, I was abandoned at the altar, therefore I'm going to throw myself into the ocean, which I never believe, or the river. I don't feel like anyone's ever that distraught. But what I do think is likely, is possible, is maybe she was abandoned at the altar and then she went to the bridge to throw her ring off and was like, oh, that was stupid, and then dove in to get it.
Right. I don't know. I feel like some of those stories could be true. I mean, getting stood up at the altar has to be an emotionally taxing situation where someone might throw themselves off a bridge. But it does seem like every single bridge ghost is either the story of, a woman who was stood up by some sort of a husband to be and ended up throwing herself off the bridge, or it's threw her baby off the bridge for some reason.
Crybaby
which these things do happen.
They do.
But for everything to be tied to the same legends at every single bridge, this is why they call them the crybaby bridges and stuff. It's kind of the same story over and over again, but it could happen. So you never know.
It could. Well, there's a unique one too, and it's the mob victims. So some people believe that the spirits of those killed by organized crime still haunt the bridge and river below. Paranormal enthusiasts claim to feel an oppressive presence or hear disembodied whispers in the vicinity. It was believed that the Bugsy Siegel gang would dump bodies in this River back in the 40s.
In
But
Reno?
yeah, which is not really close to Vegas, but
It's like a
you know,
really long drive, isn't it? Isn't it like an 8-hour drive?
I think it's a 6-hour drive.
16?
But
in the 40s? By
20-hour drive. Yeah,
where do
probably.
cars go? Like 4 miles an hour?
Yeah, but he wasn't just in Las Vegas. He was also in California and places like that. So you never know.
I mean, it just seems really.
It just feels like maybe they just stuck a popular name to it.
It's just so far. It's just like, oh my God, do I really have to drag this body to Reno right now?
Well, I don't think Bugsy Siegel was the guy doing the actual dumping of the bodies.
I was gonna say is that like if he had, I don't know, it seems like something that you would do to like a prospect where you're like, oh yeah, you want to be in?
Yeah.
This body in Reno.
Body in Reno, but you got to prop him up in the passenger seat next to you.
That way you can take the carpool lane. It's a shorter drive to Reno.
You want to be in our gang? Take this fake phone all the way to Reno from Las Vegas.
Yeah. So who knows if it was actually his gang or if there was probably, I mean, there were probably, the mafia was probably in Reno also, would be my guess.
Cold people to do that to somebody. Imagine making somebody travel. With
That and Donnie brings up a good point of like you have a whole desert to bury the body, and imagine driving by all that desolate in the area and be like, I gotta go drop this thing on off a bridge when I could have buried it in any one of these spots along the way.
They're not gonna check. They're not gonna be like, let's go see if Tom threw that body off the bridge in Reno. Like you just can't just go do whatever.
He could have had remote operations going on in Reno too, though.
Maybe.
Who knows? And then there's one final haunting at this bridge, and it is the wedding ring curse. And it's a lesser known tale that suggests that the act of throwing the wedding rings into the Truckee River cursed the bridge. And some say this curse is why it attracts so much tragedy and paranormal activity.
I will say it's better than actually disposing of your spouse over the bridge, is just throwing the ring over the bridge. We get a lot more tales of the other when we're researching stories, so this is a little bit easier, I suppose.
Do you think people are getting married in Vegas and just on a whim and then driving up to Reno to get the 6-week divorce and then throwing their ring in the bridge? Because if that's plausible, then so is dumping a body, right? It's the same drive.
Yes.
Is that Seth on guitar?
Seth on guitar with his first appearance on the show.
Just lurking in the background.
Yeah. Let's take a look at him. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Seth on guitar.
Play Freebird.
He does. His guitar is actually right there, but we won't do that.
That's not what we're doing. Anyway, so the second location that we covered was the Levy Mansion. And this was the mansion that was built in 1906 by the merchant Wilhelm Levy. And not to retell all the history of this, but there was one
actually. It was William Levy.
Yeah, it was Wilhelm, quote, William, which he Americanized his name when he came over from Germany. So as
we all know, he drove a Chevy.
Yes.
I would like to think. Oh, I see.
The Levy was dry.
Yeah, it was dry.
I was still trying to come up with William jokes, but we can go with that one instead.
Yeah, they called him Bill Levy. But this house actually had 2 different addresses, and the reason for this is kind of interesting, or at least I thought. So after the parents died, the 2 daughters, Fritzy and Mildred Levy, were given ownership of the house.
Bad names.
And I think they're kind of cool.
Fritzy and Mildred?
Yeah, I think those are cool names.
It just sounds like they're destined to open an ice cream parlor at some point.
They were born 60.
What's that?
They were born elderly. They were born 60 years old.
Those are a couple of those names where it's like, you don't know anyone by those names that are
now. They weren't born in 2020. This was the early 1900s.
Whenever they were born, they were 60 and working at a diner and smoked a lot of cigarettes.
So many cigarettes. They just manifested in a bingo hall.
And even though this is bingo hall, even though this is Nevada, they were absolutely born with unbelievably thick Boston or New York accents. 100%.
Oh my God. And they have like that ugly pink nail polish on, both of them, right? And those glasses for sure.
Now I'm just picturing Marge Simpson's sisters.
That's pretty much
there you
it.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Anyway, so they inherited the house, and Fritzy wanted nothing to do with the property because she had become completely disillusioned with Reno altogether and had no desire to return after she married a successful doctor from San Francisco. But Mildred, on the other hand, continued to reside in the Levy family mansion. The sisters came to an agreement and decided to divide the property right down the middle. Mildred could continue living in the home on one side, while Fritzy would inherit the empty property on the other. The only problem was a portion of the home also sat on Fritzy's half, and she was apparently very petty. So as a solution, Mildred contacted a house mover to pick the structure up and rotate it 90 degrees and move it over a bit so that it faced California Ave instead. And this is why it has 2 historical addresses. But imagine being like, your side's on my side a little bit. We need to have this house lifted up and spun around.
Like, see, I would do that, but only to make sure that the sun's in your eyes pretty often. Like if your bedroom wasn't facing the right direction, like, let's rotate that and make sure that Dave doesn't sleep comfortably.
It does sound like something.
Let's make that hangover just a tiny worse this morning.
It does sound like something Rob would do. He's like, oh no, we're picking the house up and we're rotating it. You're not having your corner of the house will not touch my side of the property.
You make it sound like I'm the most spiteful person on the planet
that I've ever met. Yes. On the planet, probably. It's up there.
Most likely.
Apparently, we're also pronouncing Nevada wrong, and we're supposed to pronounce it Nevada, according to Jennifer in the chat.
Well, if they're trying to correct us, it looks like they're typing it the way we're saying it.
Nevada. I think it's Nevada. Some people say
Nevada. I've heard.
We'll just pronounce it Navda the rest of the episode.
I wonder if that's just how Midwestern people pronounce it. Doesn't it sound like
they don't know how to talk?
Oh, you're from Nevada.
Yeah. We'll say what we want, and we're from Boston, which makes us right.
Yeah, exactly.
We've gotten yelled at about pronunciation so much that like just bring it. I don't care anymore.
Nevada. Yeah.
Nevada. That's how I'm pronouncing it for the rest of the episode is Nevada.
No, we're just going with Nevada.
Nevada. So the reported paranormal activity at the Levy Mansion includes child apparitions, sounds of children running, sounds of children giggling, and paranormal investigators suggest that it's the presence of 3 child spirits, a young boy who succumbed to a disease, and 2 girls around the ages of 9 or 10.
Definitely not Mildred and Fritzy.
Definitely not.
It could be.
It's also not the Levy Mansion, it's the Lavy Mansion.
The Levy Mansion. And then
Can we I don't know if you're going to get to this, but the thing that I like really raised an eyebrow at when you were telling this story is not knowing where anybody's buried.
Yeah, that's weird. No one knows where they're buried. So they spent a lot of time in San Francisco, so it's theorized they might be buried somewhere there, but people have tried to find the graves and no one really knows. So I think the issue is I don't think Mildred or Fritzy had any kids. I think that because
shocker.
Yeah, they had to have 40 cats each.
They were 60 when they were born, Dave. They were not able to reproduce.
So if the family Levy, the Levy family ended with them dying, then I guess it's not crazy that nobody would know where they're buried. Because
Barbara brings up a great point. Let's check the river.
Yeah, right.
I got jumped off the bridge by a prospect.
Could have been. But that is the Levy Mansion. And then we can move on to the divorce ranches. So this was an interesting thing that I didn't actually know about Nevada or Reno, was that it's the divorce capital of the world. I just thought that was such a random thing to be.
Is it still the divorce capital of the world? Because now you can just do it.
Yeah, I don't think it's as big of a thing anymore. I know that all the ranches are either now repurposed to serve another purpose that was redundant, but or some of them are just abandoned and closed down. But I don't think that it's still a big thing. But during the 40s through the 60s, where it was taboo to get a divorce and you basically were shunned and frowned upon if you were a woman who got a divorce or wanted a divorce, even if you were in an abusive relationship, the attitude was like, well, suck it up. So they had to, and the court proceedings were so pedantic and meticulous that you'd have to, you would never be able to get through the system without being dragged through for several months. So they had this 6-week program where you can get an expedited divorce. And a lot of that came because of the fact that this was a boom town. So where these boom towns would just like, they'd set up shop so fast and then they'd break down and turn into ghost towns so fast
Mm.
that they had to have fast legal proceedings. Otherwise, people would be, contracts would be a disaster. So
It was a process. I mean, this is why a whole branch of Christianity was created. It was because guy couldn't get a divorce. He's like, you know what? My own religion. And now I can get a divorce.
yep.
I like the idea that there's like a 6-week program. It sounds like they were trying to make them stay together to see that they shouldn't get divorced. So you have to go like on this retreat for 6 weeks. So what should have happened is couples that were not on the verge of divorce, they should have went and done the program as well and just been so happy around each other and made everyone else even more infuriated with their significant other because they couldn't be like that couple. Just to be
Be a good troll job. You got to think that. But now here's what I think. I think, and this is probably on the books, but I think whoever passed that law probably owned one of these places and was tired of people just showing up, getting a divorce, and leave. He's like, you know what? You got to book a room for 6 weeks. That's what he wants to do. He wants to sell out his hotel rooms, or like his stays at the ranch. And I mean, more than likely, I mean, I'm sure they could stay somewhere else, but if you're going to that place together and there's a room available, you're like, all right, fine, we'll stay there. Give me 2 rooms. We're not getting along. And I bet you that's where it started from, was some guy who was like, you know what? You got to book a couple days. You know what? No, you got to book 6 weeks straight.
So
making his money.
I don't think that this was how it worked. I don't think they were staying there as a couple. I think that this was a loophole for the woman, typically the woman, to go and stay by herself, and she only had to prove residency by staying there. That's her legal address for 6 weeks, and then she could file for the divorce. Legally, I don't know how that would work because I thought both parties have to consent.
Oh, so it was just the woman.
I like me and Jesse's ideas better.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Sure.
Or it was just a hotel owner who really wanted a bunch of about to be single women to be
Hell
around.
Yeah. All right.
Well, yeah, there we go.
This guy is an entrepreneur.
we haven't let this ship sail yet.
So there were a few other of the ranches that I didn't mention in the opening video that also have interesting hauntings. Not all of them are in Reno, but they're all in the area. Some of them are just outside of it. So there's the Cattleman's Ranch. This one's known for its upscale accommodations, and it allegedly houses the spirit of a former guest who passed away under, quote, mysterious circumstances, and witnesses describe her presence as benevolent but melancholic. So creepy, but at least it's a nice spirit. But that could be accompanied by the strange feeling of melancholy that haunts visitors.
The old mysterious circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
which could range from anything medical related because they didn't know shit back then.
Yep.
To something absolutely sinister. So take your pick. Spin a wheel.
The Flying M Ranch is another one, which was once a luxurious retreat for divorce seekers. It's rumored to be haunted by both a former ranch hand and a heartbroken guest, and reports include phantom horses neighing and the sound of boots on wooden floors. I love when we get phantom horse neighs.
Yes.
It's happened once or twice before.
We've gotten a couple of different phantom horse neighs and phantom horses.
I'd like to think that it's not a horse like making a horse noise, but it's a horse disagreeing with you.
Just neigh. Just
Neigh.
No.
No.
Nay, I don't believe so. I think not.
I think not. Nevada.
They're trying to vote on something at a town meeting, like, how many yays? Yays. How many nays? Just one ghost horse. Nay. We'll move on. We'll edit that out.
And then there was the Lazy Me Ranch. And this ranch was known for its exclusivity. Paranormal reports.
It's just one person. It's
just him.
It's just him.
You know me. It's lazy old me hanging out at the ranch.
Paranormal.
All the animals are dead. No one's been fed or watered in months. Hey,
That's what that would explain the ghost of the horse.
He's just door dashing instead of collecting the eggs. Yeah, we'll move on.
And then paranormal reports include sightings of a cowboy who died in an accident on the property and faint sounds of music from long past celebrations. So these are the hauntings associated.
Was the accident that he was too lazy to get up and feed himself?
Maybe he accidentally stomped to death.
Whoops.
So then we moved on to the University of Nevada, which is the self-proclaimed most haunted college in the United States of America. And just reading through some of these different buildings and the hauntings that are associated with it, sure, fair enough to make that claim. But there were some interesting ones because you get your run-of-the-mill hauntings like the disembodied footsteps or the voices or the feelings of whatever emotion that you can't explain. But this one had some really unique ones. Like there was the professor who died at a specific time, and now all the clocks stop at the time of death, and they do it continuously.
We've seen that in a few places, actually.
Yeah, we have seen that, but it's still a good one. And then there was the famous portrait of Catherine McKay, and that's located in the conference room on the second floor of the building. And this is the one that's known, if you take it out of the conference room and you try and hang it up in any other room, it just topples off the wall. And no matter how many times you hang it up, it keeps falling off. So they have to keep it in the conference room. Except for the one time they tried to stash it in the basement. Somebody found it just floating in midair in the basement.
Oh, shit.
No thanks.
I was about to try to come up with some scientific explanations, but that one doesn't have one.
Catherine needs to relax. We're doing floating portraits.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. I mean, what I would have said before the floating portrait detail was maybe the wall is like a little bit bowed, like in or out. So when they hang it up in that one, it like conforms to that shape. But when you try to hang it up somewhere else, maybe it just won't stay on the nail. But that doesn't explain the levitation.
Yeah, no, it definitely does not. But you wonder if it's her ghost that is just has a vanity problem. She's like, you will hang my picture back up where it belongs, or I'm going to throw a temper tantrum.
Let's look at the bright side, though. When it's in the basement and it's levitating, at least it's still hanging up and it's not falling down. It's just, it's
right. Yeah.
It's up the way it's supposed to be.
Right. There's also the Moral Hall, and this is one where people have they've claimed to see the ghost of a woman in one of the upper windows staring out the window at them. And during the time they saw this, that floor had been closed off and nobody was up there. So that's a common haunting there. And then there's the building where back in the early 1900s, he was a student there, college student. He was cleaning his rifle and it accidentally went off. And he apparently haunts the basement of that building.
Little advice for folks who might be new gun owners out there. Make sure the gun's not loaded before you start cleaning it. Step one, to clean your weapon.
Yes, this is true. This is true. And then there's other halls that basically have your kind of run-of-the-mill hauntings, like like I said earlier, the phantom footsteps and the disembodied voices and whatnot. So pretty much every single building on this campus is haunted in one way or another, particularly the old ones. So this one has a range of really old buildings that date back to when the college was founded in the late 1800s, all the way up to relatively new buildings. And it's believed that some of them might be haunted because it was built on basically a Catholic burial ground that wasn't always a Catholic burial ground. They dug up a Native American burial ground and made it a Catholic burial ground. It's like, dude, just pick somewhere else.
Like, you're in the desert, dude.
You're in the desert.
Plenty of spots. Throw them over the river.
Just
off the bridge.
I don't know why people do the things that they do. But
it's got like there's no way that like it's not just out of spite, right? In at least some of these scenarios, because nobody like
guess
we need this burial ground. So like it's just crazy.
I'm gonna guess it was probably an unmarked grave thing where they didn't know. They probably started digging into it and they found bones and they're like, well, we're not going through all the zoning again. And
we already put up the fence.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably something more like that. I can't imagine anyone being like, you know what, we should put this graveyard in that graveyard.
I honestly wouldn't rule it out for like the way our country's history is. Like,
I know.
Yeah, they do things like that from time to time.
That is true.
Listen, I am currently playing a game called Graveyard Keeper, where it is my job to run a graveyard, and it's really stressful, guys. I just want you to know that, trying to control a graveyard. Sometimes when they deliver bodies to me, I don't have time to bury them, so I have to bring them to the river and throw their bodies in the river.
I was going to make fun of you, but this sounds like a great time. I'm in that weird in-between phase with video games right now where it's like I don't really know what I want to get into. Speaking of which, for people that are waiting to see another gaming stream, I have the greatest game that I can't wait to play on stream. So we're going to do that. Back to spooky gaming season. Oh, man, it's going to be great.
Keep your YouTube notifications on, because maybe that's what we'll do next week. We'll pop up for a random holiday
that'd be
gaming
fun.
stream.
That'll be fun.
That'll be fun. Because we just can't take a day off. We just continuously punish ourselves.
When we try to, Jesse's like, no, we're working still. Like, Jesse, please, God. You haven't been fighting with the people that want to do, won't let us do locations for 15 hours a day.
Mm.
So the last location that I covered here was, well, technically it wasn't the Reno Police Department, because the police department is not haunted by this ghost, but it was a ghost that was haunting another location that was basically haunting the Reno Police Department via telephone. And this is such a creepy story. This was the story that I found that I was like, all right, where is this? Because I want to cover whatever location this is from, because this is a crazy story. And it really happened. And it was basically, not to rehash the whole story, but just the Cliff Notes real quick. Lady with dementia, her husband dies. She starts calling 911, and the dispatchers are like, you can't be doing this. And then the phone calls get raised to the next level, so they have to actually show up and see what the problem is, and they find her dead. And they come up with this bogus excuse because her body was in rigor mortis, and they're like, all right, for her body to have been in rigor mortis, this phone call could not have come in from her 20 minutes ago. It doesn't make sense. So they're like, oh, it wasn't in rigor mortis, the room was just cold. And I don't know, Rob, you're a professional undertaker, right?
Yeah.
So
let me tell you, first I'll tell you what I would have done if I got this body. So when the body comes in, there's a meter. It lets you know if it's at 100% or at 0%. Sounds like this body was still at about 98, 99% when they arrived on scene. What they should have done is they got to bring it to their laboratory, put it on the table, and then you just got to start removing the brain, the skin, and stuff, because you turn skin into paper. I don't know if you know this. This is what I.
Anyway, so
wait a second. Hang on. I would not hire you to handle my loved ones. You remove the skin from the person.
Yeah, because you got to make
on
paper. Because you got to make pig skin paper to turn into regular paper. It's a whole thing. I'll tell you guys about it after.
It's not pig skin, Rob. It's people's skin.
Listen, Jesse, I don't make the rules, okay? I just do what a graveyard keeper does. And one of the things is I got to remove the skin.
Is there an HR department? And talk to
I'm the sole employee.
Guys, bring it back.
So you are making the rules if you're the sole employee.
I haven't even told you that in order to get the bodies delivered, I have to leave out 10 carrots for a donkey that brings them over to me. Like, it's a whole thing, Jesse.
I hope this is current day and someone just shows up with the donkey attached in the back of their Volvo.
No, it's just a donkey by itself. It talks. We'll talk about this after the show.
Yeah, we got a lot to discuss.
Either way, they went through the trouble of making the report say that the body wasn't actually in rigor mortis, and that it was basically the room was too cold, so it just appeared to be in rigor mortis. And they were like, all right, that works. The problem is she kept calling after the fact for a year. And then for the house to have burnt down and the calls to continue to come in to the point where they call up the telephone company and they're like, go figure out why this dead person won't stop calling us for a year straight. And they're like, oh, this line's been disconnected for a year, so nobody's calling from this line. So they tried to say like maybe it was a recording that somehow is replaying, but it was a different, unique conversation every single time she called the station.
That's
so
wild.
It is wild.
Also,
this is one of the creepiest stories that we've covered.
It really is, yeah. But if you worked for that like phone company and they called up like, listen, I need you to figure out why the dead person keeps calling me.
I'm not sure that's how they've worded it exactly.
That's pretty much what you said, but wouldn't you just be like, no, I'm not doing that today. I'm gonna pass this job along to someone else.
We got other shit to do.
We gotta like install things for live people and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. But that was one of the most wild ghost stories.
Yeah, very, very different. That was it's actually startling, and it stands out because of how different it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be petrified if I was any of those 911 operators that had to keep getting these calls over and over. Like you have to be dreading if that number or however it was notified that it's that caller calling in. No, you still have to answer it, right? You can't be like, nope. You can't red button the calls at the night.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah, you can't. That's the kicker with being a 911 dispatcher. But that's it for the locations that I covered. However, I have a bonus one. I know we're a little over an hour here, but This was sent in by Tess, and it's kind of a legend. And it's funny. She reached out on Discord and was like, "Have you guys looked into this location yet?" And it was in Reno. I'm like, "No shit." I'm like, I got half my Reno episode written. I guess I'm gonna look into this place. And it's a place called the Truckee Murder House. And as the story goes, in the 1940s, a hitchhiker was walking along the Truckee River when he stumbled across this house in the woods. And a family of 5 lived there. It was a mother, a father, 3 kids. They believe one of them was a girl, possibly the other 2 were boys. And basically what happened was the hitchhiker staked out the house and waited for nightfall. And when everyone was asleep, he went in, crept in, and murdered all of the family members, mother, father, 3 children. And now the house is said to be haunted. So people have been sneaking into this house. It's abandoned. It's basically like the roof is all caved in and whatnot. If you pull up pictures of this place, it's pretty dilapidated, and they believe it's haunted. So paranormal investigators who have investigated the property have reported seeing shadowy apparitions inside the house. They claim to hear disembodied voices and footsteps, unexplained knocking. They've frequently reported an oppressive atmosphere with feelings of being watched or an overwhelming sense of dread. And some have described objects moving on their own or strange energy fluctuations. So the evidence from paranormal investigations also suggests the presence of a child or a young girl whose throat was cut. The Haunted Sides investigations. The Haunted Sides is the group that investigated this. There's a video on YouTube that was they use a lot of the same equipment that we use, so it was pretty cool to watch. They say that they got EVPs of saying hurt my throat, and on the ovulus it says cut. And then the investigation also captures an apparition flying past the doorway and knocking down a camera. So it's pretty cool. You should go check out the video. It was pretty well done. And but the house has been abandoned for years, and honestly, despite the legend, the more you dig into this, there is nothing concrete that backs up anything from this story being true. So it does sound like something that might be legend, but it might be true also, because we know about record keeping from the 1940s, especially out in this Reno area, where in the 1940s, this place was basically still just coming out of the Wild West phase.
Yeah, for audio listeners, Rob pulled up some images of the house, and it's obviously in pretty rough shape, but apparently still standing. So you can go investigate. The only tricky thing about this house would be you really want to make sure that you don't get lost while you're in there.
Yeah, it's really big. It looks gigantic. And we are joking, it is insanely small. It's a creepy looking house.
Literally one room. Yeah.
Yeah. I would
what
do
the hell was a family of 5 doing in that one room?
Well, dude, we went to the Hinsdale house where there was like 30 of them and 57, animals.
This house is about a third of the size.
5. It's one room. There's no way there's more rooms, right?
Yeah. They might have lofts, like those bunk bed lofts upstairs.
Maybe there was more buildings. I don't know. But from the state that it's in now, 5 people couldn't stand in that house. So it's a very tiny boy.
Yeah. It's a little one. Little guy. Scary story, yeah. And also mob country, not just the Wild West. Clearly, it's mob country as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure probably not with the family element, but
Kitten Clown Dozer says in Boston that's $2,500 a month.
It is $2,500.
Probably more, actually.
Cheap in Boston,
yeah. God.
Cool, but yeah, that's Reno. That's pretty much all of the haunted locations I could find in Reno. I looked for other ones, but these are the main ones.
Very cool. I have not been to Reno. It's a place that I don't know if I want to go to Reno, to be honest.
I do. Put it on the list. We're going.
Well, we got to go. Well, their college, which, by the way, very cool. We don't cover enough colleges on this show, but it's very ballsy of them to claim to be the most haunted college in the country. Now, maybe we have to go kick in the door to the dressed as mimes and do an investigation there.
Yep. Kent out in Ohio. That would be another one that we covered that was super haunted. Just the more you dig into it, the more hauntings you find associated with it.
Right.
Yeah, we've actually covered a lot of haunted colleges. Bridgewater State College. There's plenty. It's just usually we work it into the episode. Actually, the one out in Austin, Texas, also haunted.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well. That's Reno. I love the old desert cities there.
Yes,
And it just keeps getting pushed down the list. When they say it's like the biggest little city, it's because it used to be a big city, but they just kept building bigger and bigger cities. And this one, I guess, it's now I think like down to the fourth smallest in Nevada or whatever. So, biggest little city.
Biggest little city.
That's Reno. If you have haunted locations in Reno you'd like to suggest, send it on over. Maybe there will be a part 2 at some point, but
maybe
we do actually have to cover. Have we not covered Vegas?
We have not. We have
Lots of haunted places in Vegas. Eventually we'll get there as well.
Yes.
So
we've never also been to Vegas. None of us have gone to Las Vegas ever.
Perhaps too many times.
Perhaps too many.
Perhaps too many.
Yes.
I have no.
You can't say that on the same episode where we said we took a helicopter from Vegas. The cover's blown. We've been there. Yes. Right. Let's thank our patrons real quick, and then we'll hop into reviews. Let's start off with our VIPs, and we'll thank Justin W, J Gooch 725, Jackie F, Jeremy M, Casey W, Brendina 77, Kathy F, Hot Buttered Santa Toes for Rob to suckle on Christmas Eve.
No thanks.
That's nice. Ghost Nurse JP, another Vice. Dave has a new kangaroo onesie with a bottom flap. TJ B, Tess, Mother McTibbles, tucking her herd of ghost children into Rob's bed. Sweet dreams, Rob. Ghost children.
Well, let Gotham know because he won't be happy about that.
Gotta make room for Gotham. Kate and Steve M, Sharon V, Glitter Tease Cami from Washington, Kelly C, Jennifer P, Nick, Liz Young. Rob's favorite Christmas decorations are mistletoes. Inspires Gaming, Allison V, Robert H, Anna C, Jeannie, Mallory from Montana, Mom and Pops W, Papa Squatch, Lisa J, Rob hunts ghosts with a van down by the river. MOB. Rob, you're not allowed to boo our VIPs. You can boo any other tier.
Okay, I'll boo the other tiers.
Yep.
Yay!
Great job.
Good job.
For the Warren's Words, we have the Masshole Medic, Degenerate Gambler, Voodoo Ghost, who could or shouldn't have hit on 19, Jamie E, Jennifer A, Nick M, T-Cat, Jeremy M. I swear to God, I say this name twice every single time. Jamie E, Jennifer A, Jeremy M. I guess I didn't. Beth C, Serena Shawners, Leslie F, Rachel G, Her Lady Spookship, Sloshed in Oshkosh, Julie Gooley, Eugene M, Arcade Hunters, Colby's Last Beer.
Oh, no.
It's changed. It was the bottom of his bottle. Now it's his last beer. Kath Q, DC, Chris Connolly, LBPS founder, next HGGS guest. The other Rachel B, Sarah Cook, Janice G, Lily, Vampire Sandpaper on Rob's Toes, Irish Wristwatch. Unless
Irish
bunnies,
wristwatch?
Irish wristwatch.
All right.
What does that mean, Sydney? Tell us in your next Patreon name update. Unless bunnies.
She usually drops the Patreon name and then explains it after.
That's true. That's why I asked for a follow-up. Unless bunnies are involved, don't live in ranches. Steph A, Seth on guitar, and Human Soup. Thank you so much for being part of the Warren's Words. And next up, it is the Ghost Pirate Mafia.
Before you jump in there, this episode was dedicated to Ghost Nurse as the RIP. I think I forgot to mention it earlier.
Ah, well,
so you are this week's RIP.
Shout out to Ghost Nurse.
Hell yeah, Ghost Nurse.
Perfect. So we have Susan C, Just Ghoulie, Witchy, Kitty 416, Deb 62, Karen L, Michael M, Tanya C, Casual Cannibal. Don't worry about it.
I'm a little worried about it.
You can't just talk about cannibalism and tell people not to worry. It's just a little bite. Just a little bite. Brant C, Whisper. Shane J, Mrs. Nardozzi, Shane O'Mac, Joe Shea, Trevor S, Amber H, Christina S, Kelly C, Kate C, bloop. Crazy Legs, Cowboys are 5-8 tanking season. Just call me Bree, Miss Macabre, Michelle, Nuroku, Cold Warrior, the triumphant return of Youngtown Pizza. Geldig Jul.
Nailed it.
Gladly. Jul. Meta A. Nailed it again, as I always do. Sarah B, Monster Mom 04, Wicked Alley, Dark Snark. Rob do be sucking on them toes like he the center of a Diddy party. They got you in 4K, you ranch toad tasting demon. Taste testing demon. We won't break that down word for word. Megan S, Morgan S, fa la 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 la. Didn't sing it right. Wayne C.
What the? You're the musician, right? You don't know how that song goes?
It's been a long week. New album drops January 10th. Somehow
It's
we finished it
Tuesday.
with 6 days. We just dropped another one. Anyways, Fritzy smokes in bed while Rob paints her toes red. Oh, Fritzy. I remember Fritzy.
Chrissy
Crystal
definitely
Cole,
smokes in bed.
Yeah, aka not around. Absolutely. Her walls are dripping with nicotine. You know that. Thick Boy Freddy's baby mama might have been yeeted. Alicia E. Thick Boy Freddy versus the ever most insidious, unscrupulous, and most unsavory fellow. Hey Siri, what's a night fister? Shh. Swanee, welcome to Bill's. Siri's listening again. You know, I turned off Siri for a while. When she came back, she's like, I'd like to listen again. Anyways, welcome to Bill's wedding and funerals.
Dude,
You wed him and we dead him. Leave the rings at the bridge. Go ahead.
Nothing more alarming than when you shut your AI off and it turns itself back on.
It is self-aware.
Don't be alarmed.
Yes. Papa Squatch, nice job on changing William to Bill's. I caught that if nobody else did. Welcome to Bill's weddings. Anyways, Sam from Nepal, Joe R. Al Capone. Next up, we have Huggy Bear. Is the grave digger a fart head? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Solar Flare.
I got the fart head reference.
I didn't. What is it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was what the heck episode was it?
Yes, I remember there being a fart head.
Are we
Oh, it
that
was a movie.
childish?
I think it was a movie.
It was a movie. It was a
Friday-
movie review.
Friday the 13th movie review.
Yeah. Remember they called somebody a fart head in there, and you're just like,
Oh, okay. All right.
what is that
wasn't us.
insulted?
You fart head.
That was
Fart
never
head.
cool.
Solar Flare, Mariah M, Carolee J, Rachel B, Anthony. I appreciate Rob for being a good sport about being the butt of 90% of the Patreon names. T, that is correct. And you have also made your Patreon name about Rob as well. So you're in that 90%. Cody G, Brandon W, Hooply Whooply, Bridge Witch, and the Polka guys. Thank you so much for being on Patreon. If you'd like to join this list of elite characters, $3 a month will get you there. The higher you go, the more things you get. Ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, all sorts of good stuff, discount codes on merch. So you could buy that for probably late Christmas present.
Yeah, get an early
People
start
will
on next
appreciate
year.
that.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, we like
birthdays.
that.
People
Absolutely.
are buying merch for Christmas. It's been
Yeah,
going.
we like that. Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, next round, some new designs. We'll be shaking things up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just a bunch of pictures that people have sent in of feet, and we're just gonna have big old screen printed on the front. It's gonna be beautiful.
We're just gonna do
We
three
like that.
designs. Each are gonna be one of our faces on it, and they're gonna fly off the shelves.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
They're gonna sell so well.
I would wear a Rob's face shirt.
I know.
I
We
think
could
they
never
would be
wear.
pretty well.
We could never wear our own shirts. We'd always have to wear one of the others, right?
That'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Any reviews to go over?
Not this week.
Okay. All right, then I think that'll pretty much do it. We're back. Oh, Merry Christmas to everybody if you celebrate. And we'll be back for a New Year's Eve show. In the meantime, keep an eye out for some side content. And, be safe. Here. Oh, wait, we could have ran this the whole time. Boom.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. That's like 2 years old. 3
Better
years
late
old.
than never.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Hometown Ghost Stories. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.